folks, so what we're going to actually do here with Sheetal is we are going to first talk a little bit about her career, so you guys who aren't old enough wouldn't know about the wonderful things this lady has been doing over a number of years. Then
Stop dating me.
I'm dating you on purpose because look at her. Isn't she stunning? That's the great thing about South Asians, right? We have like the best skin. Absolutely. So then we're going to actually talk a little bit about what Sheetal believes in, some of the work that she does outside of her film career. And then we'll open it up to questions. Is that good for you?
That's great.
Brilliant. So Sheetal is a New Jersey girl, born and bred, comes from a Gujarati family. That in and by itself tells me that you would be an American-born confused Desi. So can I ask you if while you were growing up that you had kind of identity issues like I did, confidence issues, and if so, do you still have them, or did you have the opportunity somewhere along your journey to actually figure out that none of that really matters?
Hi, everyone. I grew up in a time where there really wasn't this conversation, so there was no context to my feelings, and so these terms and these kind of just dialogues that we're having now and that we've been having, and a lot of the work that I've been doing, were not things that I had the luxury to even know existed outside of myself. So when I was growing up, a lot of it was very internal, a lot of it was just being insecure and being the kid that didn't know where she fit in. I still feel that way. I think there's moments that we all feel like, what am I doing with my life? I don't think a day goes by where I don't think that still. And so, growing up was hard. It was very hard. And I didn't have mentors or people to speak to. There wasn't I was first generation, so there wasn't a generation above me that I could speak to that had the knowledge. It was when our parents first started coming. Now it's a different world. There's been generations that have been here for a while, and there's certainly a different media landscape where things are being discussed. But at the time there wasn't, and so it was kind of like every man for themselves. And I did the best that I could with what I had.
So where along that journey for you did you decide that you wanted to go into acting and you wanted to do it seriously? Where along that journey? Because as you mentioned, there wasn't really anyone out there that was doing what you decided to do with your life. And you did it from a very kind of serious perspective.
Sure. Yeah, I was actually very much the stereotypical academic kid growing up. And so it was a surprise to everyone, especially myself, that acting was definitely what I wanted to do. And I discovered it when I was in high school as something that I did it as a whim, and I realized that this was where I found myself. And I felt the stories and the impact that the work can have outside of really anything else I was doing, because I was very much also very involved with community and working with children, which is still a huge passion of mine. But this was really something that really took me to my core in a way that nothing ever had. And so I was instantly fascinated by it and wanted to learn as much as I could about it. And as I, in that process, realized, this is going to be what I do with my life. And so, much to everyone around me dismay and horror, I went to school for acting.
What I found really interesting, though, Sheetal, was there's a couple of things, but one I wanted to share with you is that the filmography that is your portfolio is so diverse. How did you have the guts to do a lot of the roles that you did and put yourself out there, so raw and so honest? Because it really was, your roles are very authentic. Anyone out there who hasn't seen Sheetal's films, you really have to go check them out. Go, look on Netflix or wherever it is that movies are available, where you can just kind of find people. But Sheetal really, you've played a lot of different characters. And I know that there probably
Not without controversy.
And a lot of them have been that way.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about how you go through the process of what films you want to actually put out there, and what have you gotten out of doing those films?
Sure. It's interesting. I don't necessarily seek out, for those of you who may or may not be familiar with some of my films, many of them were based on true life people, which is an honor. And many of them have created controversy in that they were the first stories to be told about a South Asian person who was gay, or that was Muslim, or that was provocative, or that was having sex on screen, or things that sound insane now in 2018, but back when if you do them in the late 90s and early 2000s, all of a sudden it's controversial. And
I think it's kind of still controversial, though. Somehow people still have an issue with it, right?
Well,
if you're
sure.
a South Asian woman.
Well, I think what happens is people have an idea, and it's different for everybody, of what they would like represented out there. And if it doesn't fit their idea of it, they're upset. And so, you know, for me, it wasn't about, here's the thing, I didn't know that taking any of the roles that I did. I mean, I was an actor who was reading scripts and auditioning for things that I liked. And I read material, I'm gonna turn this way so I can look over here too. And when I read material, I was really drawn to material that was interesting, and these stories were interesting to me. And that's why I wanted to do them. And then it was always a surprise to me when the movie would come out and I would get an equal amounts of love and hate mail. As for how could you put this out there, South Asian women aren't gay, South Asian, you know, all these different things that would come up from different roles that I've played, and it only strengthened my resolve. I do a lot of activism work and equality work, so it only made me more determined to keep doing what I was doing. But it was definitely surprising and a little stunning when you would read the things that people would write or have the audacity to say to you.
Give us an example.
You should die. I mean, that and everything in between.
But you carried on doing them.
Yeah, I mean, really? I was like, wow. I mean, when I read like that kind of stuff, you know, it just makes me sad. It just makes me really sad that that is the energy or what you get from someone's story, you know. Everyone's story is worthy, and everyone's journey is different, and none of us have the right to criticize, you know, anyone else's choices.
Of your films, Sheetal, if you were to kind of look back on them, which was the most difficult film from a reaching into yourself perspective did you do? And how did you kind of come to terms with feeling like you did a good job?
Well, I'm someone that never feels like I do a great job. I always feel like when I watch something back, I'm like, oh, I could have done that. You know, you always, which I've learned to take as a very healthy part of it, you know, feeling like that's good, I'm growing. If I would to look at my work from 10 years ago and think it was something I couldn't do better now, then what am I doing? Because obviously we want to feel like we're always growing and getting better with what we do. So that I have made peace with. In terms of the role, you know, it really, like, every point in my life has been different. And so I really feel like each one of my films have been challenging in their own way, and part of the work that I look for is to continue challenging. I don't want to do the same thing, and I think that's what I'm most proud of, is when you look at my films, not one of them is like the other. And so, you know, it's funny, in the entertainment industry, they're always looking to kind of typecast you or put a label on you, like you're known for these things, and I don't know that you can do that with me. And as frustrating as that is for some of my team when they're trying to get me a job, it's something I'm very proud of.
Absolutely. So you should be as well. And I think it has a lot to do with kind of a lot of the activism that you're involved in as well, and the things that you vehemently believe in. I want to kind of touch base on that as well. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, what is the word feminism for you? Because I know this is a huge part of advocacy of what you do out there in the community. So define what that means to you.
Yeah, I mean, even that is interesting to me, like saying, when I hear people say, what does that mean to you? I mean, there's a definition of feminism, and that is that equal rights for women and for everybody, really. That's what it means, and it's not something that needs to be or should be broken down or found for someone to understand. I work with a group called Misrepresentation, and I was doing a symposium for them, and I was emceeing it, and it was a group of high school kids, and there's a lot of boys and there was a lot of girls, and there's this group of boys who were all 14 and clearly were forced to be there by their teacher. And I asked them when they first started, you know, what are you doing here? What are you here for? And they're like, you know, I'm trying to get like a extra thing in my grade or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And after the day, I went back to them like, so what do you guys think? And it was all about equal rights and feminism. And the boys were like, so you guys just want to do the same things we do? Okay. And I was like, thank you. I mean, it's really not that hard. It's really not that difficult. And so it's become, what's frustrating to me is it's like, it's been turned into this kind of political word, and it's so charged that people can't own it. And it's just really frustrating because it's not something that we should be debating. You know, there's certainly conversations that are worthy of debate. Equal rights for everybody should not be one of them.
Hear, hear. Absolutely agreed. But we know that it still is an issue, right? I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you look at the hashtags out there, the Me Too and I'm with her, and I mean, the list goes on and on, right? How powerful do you feel, you know, community is in these kinds of initiatives? You know, you see the hashtags, you see it trending around the world, everyone gets on the bandwagon, but, you know, where's the reality in how successful that kind of voice really is? I mean, do you think it's just like a fad?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. I think we're definitely in a reckoning. I think that it's really up to us how far we take it individually. I think the most change that anyone is capable of doing is in their own life, in a moment, with a friend or a parent or a child that says something or does something in the moment, calling them on it in a loving way, and maybe saying something like, do you think there was a different way you could have said that? Or maybe, why did you say that? Or why do you feel that way? Or think about that. How would you like someone saying that to you or your mother? Or your friend? You know, it's really addressing it when it happens in the moment with the person in front of you, and not being afraid to do that with people that are your friends and your loved ones. And I think there's a lot of language that we haven't gotten to yet in terms of dealing with it. And I think sexism and race, all these isms, I think sexism is very complicated because it's harder to spot. And it's harder to figure out when someone's being misogynistic. And it's such a part of our culture, especially women of color. It's a whole other layer. I mean, when we talk about Me Too, I mean, I could fund all of my movies if I had a nickel for every moment, you know? And so, and again, people don't even realize it. And so what I've been doing is, in the moment, saying something. And it's really, people are like, I didn't even think of it that way, you know, most of the time. And it's really about these little things that I think all of us can do that will get us to that place a little bit faster.
How, in this industry that you're in, dealing with this obviously all the time, have you dealt with it? Like you, Sheetal, how have you dealt with this? Because as you just said, I mean, this happens all the time.
Sure. In
every single, you know, project that you're a part of, somewhere along the line, someone just feels that they can, right? How do you deal with it? Because I think, I know from a lot of mail that I get from women, the hardest part for them is to figure out how to address it when it happens. So I know that you've addressed it. You know, you're a force to be reckoned with when it comes to, you know, really understanding how to own and control who you are and what you need. But you can't control the outside world. But at some point, you need to be able to step in and say, enough already. How have you dealt with that?
Being a tough chick, having to be really, really tough. You know, I started in the 90s. This was not something anyone was talking about. And so it's funny now that we're all talking about it, even my husband and things, when I tell them stories, they'd be like, so what did you do? I'm like, nothing. What would I have done? Would I have left that casting room and then what? Like, the amount of times things happen or things are said or things that are inappropriate, who do I go to? What's gonna happen? Nothing's gonna happen. You're gonna be the difficult actress. You're not gonna get the job. And to put that kind of energy into every small thing that happens was not something that was practical for me. We're in a different world right now, you know, so thankfully people are thinking twice, or not, or just being, you know, more cognizant of these things. And we have a social media platform where, God forbid, something would happen, you could probably tweet about it and things would happen. I mean, this wasn't, you know, a sexual thing, but I've been in a room where I was up for a really big movie and the producer said straight to my face, "We love you for this, but they're not comfortable with someone of your name playing this part. How would you feel about changing it?" Yeah. By the way, always Anjali, read it. There's a part of that in there. I mean, and so, you know, and I didn't get the job and I wasn't gonna change my name, but if that had happened now, of course I would have left that room and tweeted about it and talked about it and said something about it, and I would have a community that would be supportive of that, and that would be, you know, out there. That was not to, I don't even think Facebook was around at that time. So the point is there's resources now that there's a community, and that's why it's really important. I struggle with the idea of, I'm not sure why South Asian people as a whole do better with community. I think other communities seem to align more and seem to kind of have more, I don't know if it's the structure or the kind of like secret mafia system that they all have, but I feel we can do better with that. I really do. And I think it's up to us to just kind of take a moment to really try to support our people.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And I think that's one of the reasons why events like this need to happen. We need to be able to have a platform where people can come up in a safe space and say what they need to say. And we're not here to judge, we're here to learn. We're here to inform and learn from each other.
Yeah,
right?
and I think a lot of it has to do with the kind of where we come from. Unfortunately, we're taught to hate each other. You know, when you look back at India and Pakistan and how everything seems to be so divided. I remember when I was first starting out, I would MC an event, and it probably still happens, so please don't be offended if you guys do this. But it's a thing that happens. You go to an Indian event and everyone's like, "Where are the Gujaratis in the house? Woo! Where are the Punjabis in the house?" And it drives me bananas. And I remember I was emceeing an event and the person, "You know what you should do?" I'm like, "I'm doing just fine." And they're like, "You should do," I'm like, "I'm not doing that, stop it." And but like, that's what I mean. Like, there's just little like micro things that happen on a regular basis in our culture that I just feel like are not helpful and not productive. And I think we need to move forward and get to a different place where we've all evolved and learned from that. And I think there's a lot of different ways we can talk about stuff that isn't that.
Absolutely. And you know what you're, yes. And what your name is and changing your name should never be a part of that discussion, but it has been with you, and
yes,
absolutely. Yes. But you didn't change your name.
I didn't, and you know, when you talk about the bubble, I must have lived in a bubble a little bit, because I went to NYU, and I went to the Tisch School of the Arts, which is a great acting program, and I was thriving in it. And then I got into the real world of auditioning and acting, and my first 3 meetings with representation ended with, "Great, we want to work with you. Which one of your names are you going to change?" As if, "What is your address? Fill out this piece of paper." And it really struck me. I was like, what? Really? By the way, there's a lot of people that have changed their names, to each their own. It was just not something I was comfortable doing. And it really was like a big wake-up call of navigating the world of what you feel like should be a merit-based system, which most jobs are, and acting is not. I wish it was, but it's not. And so there's a lot of other things that come into play as who gets to work. And at that time, I was dealing with a lot of stuff that the new class of kind of South Asians don't have don't have to deal with.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of really well-known personalities that you've had speak about this and quote about this in your book,
Yes.
Always Anjali. I want to go there now. Let's segue into that.
Sure.
You decided to write this book, and I think that it probably isn't going to be a secret to everyone as to why you chose to write that book. You're also a mom,
Yes,
so I'm sure
I'm a
that
new
has
mom.
something
I'm a
to
new
do with
mom,
it.
yeah.
So let's go there, okay? And because I do know that there is a portion in that book where this is talked about. you know, the underlying theme of identity and, you know, what a name means and, you know, how we have to own what that is in our own individual way. And that's what I kind of got when I read the book.
Well, it's really, yes, it's about realizing that your superpower is embracing what makes you individual. And never, ever, ever, you know, shunning away from what makes you special and who you are, and never feeling like you have to leave some of that to fit in.
Absolutely. So you decided to write Always Anjali as a children's book rather than as a film, as a short, or, you know, something,
well, not
or
that it might not
film.
be an animated show in the future, but no, this came, I'll tell you what it came from. It came from me being pregnant with my first. I have 2 little girls now, 3.5 and 15 months, so I'm in the thick of it, for all you parents who know. And just reading and being like, where is the representation? Why are there no, and also, not that there isn't, but there, if there was, it was about Diwali or it was about Holi, and it was always about something special. And we're never gonna feel like, you know, you're part of the mainstream fray unless you have stories about the mundane with people of color on the cover. And that's what, like, if we can have as many books about us and our pets as everybody else, like how many books are there about people and their dogs? Seriously. Like, really, that's when we've made progress, in my opinion. And what was also frustrating is you go to a bookstore and, like, there was a diverse section. And I was like, why is this a section? Why are we not all, like, it's just, these are things that make me, I'm really fun to be around, by the way. It sounds like I'm not, but I am.
I can attest to that, actually.
I'm not this, like, serious all the time. But no, it makes me crazy. And I'd go into these bookstores and I'd be like, why is this is the, like, diverse section. This is the, like, activism section, this is the LGBTQ, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, like, what are we telling our kids that we're separating them, even in the way that we're putting them in the stores? And then when you have them, there's like 3, or here, you know, and certainly not an Indian American girl, South Asian girl, like, there's either black or white, maybe a Latino, but talk about Indians and, like, we're just, you can't find them. So, and I have 2 little girls, and I just didn't, my dedication in this book, you'll see it, is may our littles always feel mighty. Because no one should have to feel less than. And I feel like more than ever, sadly, we were in 2018, we're having conversations that we should not be having. And so, I didn't write this now, I wrote it 4 years ago, but it has evolved since, and I wrote it just because we need it. And I felt like I could do that. I feel like my background in education and children and telling stories was perfect for me to helm the very first series that will feature an Indian girl hero. And, you know, I'm just really excited that the response has been, in fact, a few women said that to me today, like, we need more books like this. I'm like, I know. And, you know, the Gothamists just picked it as one of their faves that came out last week, which is very exciting. And so, you know, here we go. I'm putting it out there, and I think there's been, as you mentioned, you'll see in the book, there's been quotes from everyone from Hassan Minhaj to Black Thought Trotter, from The Roots to Aparna Nancherla, you name it, and all giving anecdotes for what they went through regarding, like, that's similar to the book for Anjali. And Anjali, basically what happens is she wants to change her name because she wants to fit in after being bullied, and she has to learn that actually she shouldn't, and that's what makes her really special, and she owns it and learns on her own why it's awesome, and she goes up to the bully and deals with him and comes out the other side realizing she's always going to be Anjali. And so it's a really universal story about being proud of who you are.
Absolutely. And guys, you guys know that this book is doing its global launch here at our event. We are very, very fortunate and honored.
You're the first.
Yeah.
Our actual launch is in New York next week, but because it's Raj, I said we have to come to Toronto first.
Oh my gosh. And can I tell you guys, if you haven't seen this already on my Instagram, Raj Girn, or the Anoki Media one, you'll see Sheetal signing the very first book of, you know, ever in this.
Well, literally, like, I didn't know we were going to get it in time. Our publisher was like, I don't know. It's not, like, the ship date like was down to the wire, so you open the book, it's like freshly from the printer. So I literally had them they were sent to my home like 2 days ago. I packed as many as I could in a bag, and Roger's the first one to get a signed copy.
Absolutely. I'm so blessed and honored, my darling. It's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you.
As you guys know that there are a few copies of this available. Obviously, you know, the official launch is happening in New York. We have the pre-global launch here at you know, our event in Toronto. So you guys will be the first people to be able to have the opportunity to have this book, and not just have it, but have it signed by Sheetal herself. So I'm really, really happy that, you know, she's a real fan of Toronto. You know, she loves it here, and we just want to have more opportunities to have her come out. And I'm not going to let you go yet, Sheetal, because I would like to now open it up to all of you guys out there. If you have a question of any kind that you would like to ask Sheetal, please do not hesitate. And again, I say this is a safe space, so you can say you can share
There's
whatever
nothing
you
you
need
can
to.
say that I haven't heard, don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lady over there. If you could kindly give her a mic. It does. Okay, perfect. Do you want to stand up and just share your name, my dear?
My name is Sandeep. I'm very proud of my name. So you.
Hi, Sandeep.
Hello. You having said that, I think it's something that's important to everyone. I think that's universal. Your names are important. So when some people mispronounce your name, I think, or tell you to change it, forget that. So thank you for writing this book. I'm gonna get one for my niece.
Thank you.
And what you were saying reminded me of, I always mess up her name, Chimamanda Adichie, that the power of the single story. So if we're in the mainstream hearing the same stories over and over again, the Apu controversy is happening right now, same stories of South Asian people constantly being represented in the media, that's all mainstream folk ever hear. I think there's a danger in that. And sharing these type of stories is awesome. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
It was more of a comment than a
No,
question.
but I agree. Ditto.
And who else has a question or a comment for Sheetal? Please don't be shy. The lovely lady right here. Please share your name when you stand up. We're all family here.
Well, my name is Sandeep as well.
Oh my gosh.
So the story that I want to share is that I started in the transportation industry 20 years ago. And as soon as I'll say my name is Sandeep, and they hear, oh, Sandy. And I had to go back and say, no, it's not Sandy, it is Sandeep. So I kept my name as it is, and now everybody knows me as Sandeep. So kudos to you to bring it on. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, it's so interesting that you say that, because there's been so many adults, because we've sent out advanced copies, you know, for your viewers, and so many people are like, oh my God, this is like, they want to buy it for themselves and their kids, because like it's happened to all of us in some way, shape, or form, and it's not just people of color. Like in the book, the testimonial, there are people of all races, all backgrounds, you know, all careers. We all deal with it in so many different ways.
Absolutely. And more questions, my dear?
Oh, hello. Yes, Mike. Thank you. But there's so much segregation. Like, I'm Pakistani Muslim, born and raised in Hamilton, and people are like, "Oh, what do you do? Is this like, what do you eat? What do you smell like?" I apologize if I smell like curry. I live with my parents. But in regards
Why
to
are you
that,
apologizing?
well, I
We
don't,
love
no,
curry
no,
here.
Sorry. The curry is too strong. Mom needs to use a little bit less salt. That's the only reason why. But love my curry. Love my curry. But in regards to that, I'm a vessel for a lot of the women that are around me, that I create with. So how do you keep your energy, and how do you remain so alive? And like, I'm not a mom yet. Inshallah soon, but like, how do you do it, and how do you have all this energy with you? Like, I just want to know your secret. Like, what is that?
I don't really have a lot of energy. I'm actually quite tired. But no, I mean, I think it's really like my kids, you know? I have no idea what the world is going to be like when they get older, and it scares the crap out of me. So that's, I think, a big part of it. And also, you know what? I have been working with community and with kids my whole life, and I mentor and I tutor and I speak and I like monthly, you know, with so many different communities and different age groups, and I am so amazed by them, and I am very inspired by the youth. Really, they are our future. I mean, look at what they're doing when you see what's happening with Parkland in the US. I mean, it's really astonishing. And so I feel like the least we can do is support them and amplify them because they have the answers. Yeah.
Yes, please. Oh, this is Jasmine, guys, from Rowenta.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Question for you. So I have a daughter as well. Do you believe that our daughters would have a different future than what we grew up with in terms of openness? You mentioned we're speaking with a bunch of boys that were 14 years old and them not seeing the difference. Do you feel that they would have more opportunity than what we had growing up?
I think it depends on what we present to them. I think it really, the world in which we create for them at our home, it's where it starts, is really important. And so, and it takes practice. Like I catch myself sometimes, and I have to say to my husband or my parents or his parents and people that are around them, don't say that. I don't like the boy-girl thing. That's not even allowed, you know. We shop in wherever, like I hate that there's even sections. If like half of the clothes I get for my kids are from the boys section. It's also like people around them being like, just like deciding to give them dolls or giving them certain toys that they assume they might. It's all of that just like stuff that's innately ingrained in us.
But do you think that's coming from older generations? Because their generation, I don't necessarily see the same.
Well,
Like
I think it's
within
coming from the world.
Right.
I think the world in itself, when you walk outside, is telling you you're supposed to be a certain way because of your gender and the way you look. Right. And so it's up to us to kind of break that down for our kids and having conversations that my parents didn't have the luxury to talk to me about stuff. They were just trying to get food on the table and happy that if we just survived and, you know, got through the day. And so my mom jokes, like, she's always like, why? Like, she thinks I'm like a hippie and doesn't understand why I talk about things I do and like the stuff that I do with my kids. And I'm like, but you didn't have I love you, but you didn't even like, there was no way you could have thought of that because you didn't have the luxury to do that. We are luckier because of that, but with that we have more responsibility as for what we're putting into the world with all of our kids. And it's not just girls and boys, it's just about, I think the reason why we're so far gone is because and one thing I'll say, I know we're short on time, this book, because it deals with what it deals with, a lot of, let's say, non-people of color are afraid of it. And my thing is, you're never too young to talk about things like this. And I think that's why we are where we are. And so there's age-appropriate conversations to have with a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old that's appropriate. I actually developed a guide because I was so tired of people not understanding the language. And I think that's what we need, is I think we just need to arm people with languages for how do you talk about this kind of stuff. And most importantly to me when I developed that guide, because what happens to Anjali in the book is she gets bullied and her friends are horrified, but no one says anything. And so it's important for me to also get kids to realize, how do you be an upstander and not just a bystander? Be active in these moments. What would you do? Let's talk about that if this happened to you or your friend. And those are the little things we can do with our kids to hopefully get the next generation to a better place than we are.
Yeah, I fully agree, and it's lead by example.
Yeah.
I think for our daughters.
And talking about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have this lady right over here. Yes? Please share your name.
I'm Sonam.
Hi.
I just have a quick question. Maybe this is a little bit outside the norm, but what do you think about, like, for example, I got married and I was expected to change my name. And that's something you deal with here. It's like your name change. I understand it's just a last name, but I made a conscious choice. I didn't want to change my name. It was because I thought it was my identity. But then a lot of times in our culture, we get asked questions like, oh, why not? Why are you being difficult? What are you going to do when you have kids? Whose name are they going to take? So what, like, I'm still struggling with that. It's like, you know, a lot of people have different opinions, but what would be your sort of input on something like that?
Well, I didn't change my name either. I've had all of those questions. Mm-hmm. It continues to happen. Mm-hmm. And I just answer them very honestly and tell them why, you know? And I think, and it's again, it's really about an individual thing. Like, you can change your name if you want. I don't want to change my name. It's that simple, you know, like it's really about giving people the permission to do what feels right to them. For me, there is no way that my kids were not going to have my name. I grew them in my belly, I birthed them, and you gotta be freaking kidding me if my name is not in their name. Like there just wasn't even a question. And my husband knows that and laughs and loves me for it, and that's why we work, you know?
Yeah.
There are some guys that wouldn't be able to handle that. And there's also, like, I just also point to them, like, there are a lot of matriarchal societies out there where it's the opposite, where like the name always comes from their mom, you know? And so it's just about just being on. And so and my parents think I'm like the most difficult. You don't even know what my parents are to deal with. And imagine what my in-laws think, okay? So, but I do it with a smile. And I'm just really honest about it. You know, I'm like, I'm not gonna change it. It's not something that I feel comfortable with, and I feel it's really important that what I say is it's really important for my children to feel that they are equal parts me and my husband. And that's what I say.
Thank you. I love that. That really means a lot that you would say that.
I
That's
appreciate
exactly
that.
how I think, and thank you so much. Thank you.
And do we have time for one more question? Let's just do one more question. One more question. Go ahead, my dear. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Hi, Sheetal. Nice to meet you. My name is Narisha, by the way. So I have a question with regards to your training as an actress. I'm an actress as well, and it's so wonderful to see a fellow Gujarati who's also an actress. You don't often see that, especially in the Indian community. I think there's a stereotype that a lot of Punjabis are in the arts, and as much as I love my Punjabi fellow sisters and brothers, it's nice to see representation in that sense. I just want to learn about your training. Why did you choose NYU Tisch School of the Arts, and what would be your advice for upcoming actresses in the business?
Yeah, I mean, at the time that I was looking into schools, it was pretty just like me looking and seeing which ones had programs that I felt would nurture my style of acting. And you know, some people like a conservatory, and I didn't want that. I want something that was mixed with liberal arts as well. And so my NYU does a great job of doing 3 days of heavy acting and then 2 days of other stuff. And I had other interests, and I wanted to do that. So that's why, and I also wanted to be in New York, and I felt that would be a good place for me, so that was important. As far as training, I think it's important, and I think you should continue to do it. Like, I still train. I still go to classes, intensive, have a coach, and I think it's important for us to continue to hone our craft, continue to watch things, and I don't mean just in the acting world, but I think in anything artistic, and going to galleries, and anything where there's music, anything that's creative, visual arts, museums, I mean, anything that can feed that creative spirit of you is going to serve you. And it's just important to keep that alive. I think what happens is when you get older and you've been working and you have families and stuff, you forget to nurture that side of you. And it's the only thing that, at least for me, that keeps me going, because it can get not fun really fast. So you have to remember why you love it.
Also, just quickly, have you ever thought of venturing in other different areas of, I would say, creating content or performance arts? Because it feels like these days, people tend to put you in a box. Either you're an actor, producer, TV host, singer. But it seems like now, with the way media is kind of headed, a lot of people can be an amalgamation of those things. How's your experience been with that?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, I produce as well. And I wish I'd started producing earlier. I've produced movies. I have a movie that I'm producing right now. You know, and so I think it's much easier. I think it's easier to make content. Yeah. I think you can make something with a phone. You know, some of the latest stuff that went to Sundance was made with your iPhone. And so, but what's important about that is, because there's so much content, is making sure that the point of view is specific, and making sure what you, I hate that thing of like, oh, I've already seen that story. No, you haven't heard it from that person. But what is it about you telling this story that's gonna make me watch it? Because your point of view is gonna be different from everybody else's. And so if we all were to make a story about going to the supermarket, it'd be completely different. And that's why it's exciting. And so remembering what makes you unique and putting that into your work is what will make it kind of shine.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
All right, folks, so I think that we're going to wrap that up now. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up by actually playing the video that we should have played at the beginning. This will actually help you guys really get a good perspective on, you know, why Sheetal is who she is, and why we here at Anoki absolutely love and adore her. And you guys got a slight glimpse of why she's really special, and why the platform she uses is one that's really relevant for us to support as well, because she's the real deal. This is not just someone that wants to go out there and become, you know, famous and rich, even though you are very famous as far as, you know, our community
I'd like
is
to be a little
concerned.
more rich.
Yeah.
I like to
mean,
be rich. I like to be able to
absolutely.
like live in New York and not be like.
But you know, it'll happen, right? You put it out there,
No,
girlfriend.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
No, it's good.
absolutely. So take a little look at this video, and then we're going to actually do something that I'm excited about doing, and that is giving out one of your signed books. Yes,
Love it.
absolutely. So roll.
When I first started out, my first maybe 3 meetings with representation concluded with, great, we want to sign you. Which one of your names are you going to change?
I'm Sheetal Sheth. We are in New York City, and I'm wearing the new freestyle.
We're about to dance.
Well, I know that you're the first Indian woman to be in the Maxim magazine.
Talk about, you obviously want to get to the point where you're not having to have these discussions, but we're not there yet. Like, talk to me when it's equal.
Everything that this shoe stands for in terms of a chick kind of living her own life and playing things by her own rules, setting her own standard, and kind of doing what she always wanted to, which is certainly how I feel like I've lived my life.
And being from India and seeing what they do, there's 1 billion of us over there,
Right.
and only growing. And China, the reason why they're doing so well is because of their education system. I will tell you, when I go there and I spend time with my cousins, even when I was a child, what they were studying in high school was far more than what I was studying in high school. So, and the level of priority it is in their life is important.
That's
And
what they
just have an opinion, have some passion about one thing. I don't even like to two-party system.
I don't
and then
either.
I
No, I don't
get
either.
upset that we talk. I don't like using the word Republican or Democrat because
me either.
I want to say the name of the person that we're
Right.
talking about. Because, by the way, I'm an independent. I'm proud to be an independent.
Good for you.
And I don't fall any of those. And I think most of us, by the way, fall in the middle of a lot of different issues. We have some issues that may be considered right or left, but presenting it that way makes the country so divisive and gets people to feel like they have more to argue about than they actually do. The accent thing was a hot topic. The only thing that they had seen about an Indian person was Apu from The Simpsons. And it's something that I would never look back and have done differently, but it has cost me jobs. I've had people in the room literally say to me, people are just not comfortable with someone of your name playing this part. At the end of the day, if the movie's good, I really don't think you're going to care if it's a black woman, a white woman, an Asian woman, a Latin woman, because hopefully they're just good. They're scared to put someone of color as a lead because they think you won't go see it. And I think we're smarter than that. And the problem is, this is something that's going out into the world, and people are consuming, and people are watching it, and they are learning from what they're watching, right? If you have no knowledge of anything, that is their only sense of education. We grew up learning things off of media all the time, and that is happening more than ever. So I feel like it is our responsibility more than ever to try to be as authentic as possible.
I like
But
that
I've
about
done a
you.
number of movies where have raised a lot of, quote, controversy. And after I did both I Can't Think Straight and The World Unseen, there are people sending me very violent, hostile messages. By the way, I grew up in a family that didn't talk about that stuff. We didn't talk
Right.
about dates. We didn't talk about sex. We didn't talk about anything like that. Our agents on the breakdown said the prototype of this part is Sheetal Sheth. And I'm like, well, they can get Sheetal Sheth. I don't know why they're telling people that we want someone like her when they can get her. So I didn't expect to get a phone call from Albert Brooks, certainly. And any reservation I had literally was completely vanished because he asked the questions, the right questions. And he was sincere in the answers and actually wanting to know what it was to do an authentic story about this and be real and put some heart and positivity, which was just so nice and refreshing. The Middle East and India, man, I don't know what's worse in terms of that kind of reaction in terms of handling this. They've got a lot of work to do. But then, like you said, there is tremendous need for it in these communities because some of the most loudest fans of mine that have been affected are from those parts of the world because they're like, thank you. You have to really love what you're doing. And we do. And I think you see that. And I think you see that everyone's here for the right reasons. And then to explain that we were the reason why they're no longer a part of the world is, I wouldn't know how to do that. I think down the line and in the future, more people will look like I do because we're all melting and mating with each other. Figure out what success means to you, and then live it.
Only in New York. Only in New York.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Folks, so that's a little look into Sheetal Sheth, her career, what she believes in, and she truly is an Anoki woman, a woman that I'm so proud of, and I'm so happy that she had the opportunity in her busy schedule to be here with us, and to also launch her incredible book, which we know we're going to buy, right guys? Yes.